I typically talk about astronomy, space, and science, and the way they're twisted and distorted by anti-scientists, by pseudoscientists. And for all the years that I've been doing active skepticism, I've never actually stood up here and talked about what it means to be an active skeptic, to do skepticism, about how we practice this art of ours. It's not really necessarily a science skepticism. There's some art to it. And I've not discussed skeptics ourselves. And so over the past couple of months, I've been thinking about this a lot. I read a lot of blogs, I read the bulletin boards and all of that. And honestly, there's been some alarming developments in the way skepticism is being done. And, perhaps not overall, but in some specific places, the tone of what we're doing is decaying. And instead of relying on the merits of the arguments, which is what critical thinking is really all about, what about evidence-based reasoning is about, it seems that vitriol and venom are on the rise. And I'm unhappy about that, and I want to talk about it. So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question here. How many of you here today used to believe in something, past tense, whether it was flying saucers, psychic powers, religion, anything like that? You can raise your hand if you want to. I mean, I imagine, yeah. Not everybody's born a skeptic, right? A lot of you are raising your hand. I'd even say most of you from what I can tell. Now, let me ask you a second question. Second question is, how many of you no longer believe in those things and you became a skeptic because somebody got in your face screaming and called you an idiot, brain damaged, and a retard? Okay? Yeah. Right. And look, we have to admit that our reputation amongst the majority of the population is not exactly stellar, right? So where does this leave us? How do we attain that goal of a rational, reasonable, enlightened society? And the key is obvious, to me at least, it's communication, right? The best idea ever thought of in the history of humanity is useless unless someone communicates it. It will die in the test tube. And in our case, what we're communicating here to people is not something they necessarily want to hear. So our demeanor, how we deliver this message, takes on crucial importance. So again, I ask you to remind you, how many of you lost your faith, your belief, because someone called you an idiot, right? I suspect that most of you, like me, you lost your beliefs gradually. It didn't happen overnight. I didn't wake up one day and decide to disbelieve, or it just happened. It took a while, months, years, I don't know, to be honest, I don't remember, but it wasn't overnight. And it wasn't because someone insulted me or got in my face. We saw Randy on those clips earlier today, and I'm not sure exactly about the timing when he did the psychic surgery, but I remember watching that and laughing and thinking that that was awesome, that that's a terrific way to do it, to make people laugh and to tell them it's a trick, and you engage them and it's funny. And that really helped me become an active skeptic and to do what I do today. And that was 20 years ago. I mean, I really started thinking about my own beliefs. I was I've mentioned this many times in previous TAMs. UFOs and out-of-body experiences and the Bermuda Triangle, I was huge into that stuff. And you know what? Now look where I am, right? I used to be a believer in all of that, but today I write a skeptical blog. I've written a skeptical book, and for a year, I was the president of one of the premier skeptical organizations on the planet. You may have heard of it. And I suppose you could call me a skeptical success story. I didn't seek out to do this, but I guess the way I did it worked, and it resonated with some people, and I'm really glad about that. But if someone had told me when I was 13 years old that my belief in UFOs was stupid, and that I was an idiot, and that stuff clearly isn't true, where would I be sitting right now? Wouldn't be here. The insults, when we do insult people, and it happens, they fly for a lot of reasons, and I suspect that frustration is one of them. Active skeptics, like me, like everyone out there who's been doing this for a long time, we've been fighting irrationality for years, and it gets frustrating when the same arguments come up over and over again, long debunked tropes that are clearly wrong, and yet they're thrown at us again and again and again. And then you know what happens is that the pseudoscientists change their arguments slightly, and it's enough to maybe fool the public or fool the media. It doesn't fool us, but you know, that happens. We have to be careful not to personalize that anger too much. Now look, anger is good, it's needed, it's a motivator, right? It gets you out of bed sometimes. And I speak from personal experience, I get angry. But it's also a loaded weapon, and we need to be exceedingly careful where we aim that weapon. It's too tempting to want results right now. I want to change somebody's mind while I'm talking to them, while I'm face to face with it. It's human nature to want that, to want instant gratification, and to win an argument. And anger and frustration can catalyze that. But how many of you play chess? I'm guessing a lot of you are dweebs. You play chess. I play chess. How often do you sacrifice a piece for the greater goal, right? You can have your queen at the end of the game when your opponent checkmates you, but you've lost, okay? You have lost the game. It doesn't help. Another analogy, I love this one too. A pedestrian has the right of way while crossing a street. And certainly if you walk off a sidewalk when a car is coming, you're technically in the right. You're also roadkill, all right? When you're dealing with someone who disagrees with you on some matter, what is your goal? What is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Insulting at them. Just insulting them, yelling at them, calling them brain damaged or morons or baby rapers may make you feel good. That's been used, by the way. It may make you feel good. It may help you vent. It may help you release frustration. It may rally the troops. It may even foment people to help you and to take action. And let's be honest, it may allow you to feel smug and superior, at least in that moment. But is your goal to score a cheap point? Or is your goal to win the damn game? And it's no surprise, I think you will agree, that in the skeptic movement we have our share of people who are a bit short in the politeness department. In times of war, we need warriors. But this isn't a war. You might try to say it is, but it's not a war. We aren't trying to kill an enemy. We're trying to persuade other humans. And in times like that, we don't need warriors. What we need are diplomats. So after all this, I think I can sum up my points like this. First, always ask yourself what your goal is, right? Is this argument necessary? What is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Before you blog, before you leave a comment, before you engage a pseudoscientist, before you raise your hand, before you send that email, ask yourself, is this going to help? Is this going to allow me to achieve my goal? And you also need to ask yourself, will this impede me from achieving that goal? Is this just to make me feel better, or am I trying to change the world? And second, and not to put too fine a point on it, don't be a dick. Now, I'm not the first person to say this, okay? Don't be a dick. All being a dick does is score cheap points. It does not win the hearts and minds of people everywhere. And honestly, winning those hearts and minds, that's our goal. And I asked you two questions at the beginning when I stood up here in the first place. And the first one was, if you used to believe in something. And the second one is if you lost that belief because someone was a dick to you. My goal, my personal goal, is to have everyone in the world raise their hand when they're asked that first question. And the other part of that goal is to never even have to ask the second one. Thank you very much.